come to order. Let me ask a couple things in advance. The first is, if you've not already done so, will you please sign in on the clipboard on the right so that we have a record of who's here. The second is, if you have a cell phone, will you please turn it off? The proceedings are being recorded and it interferes with that. With that, Mr. Dixon, do you want to introduce case 5912?
All right, case 5912, request for conditional use for a blacksmith welding shop and a variance. The site is located at 1300 Broadbeck Road, Hampstead, Maryland, on property zone C, Conservation and Election District 8 by James W. Brathoon, Jr., basis Code of Public Local Laws and Ordinances, Section 158.071 D10 and 158.040. A site visit was scheduled for December 16th at approximately 10 a.m. In the file of this matter, we have the following documents. A December 21st, 2015, letter from George Renfro, to whom it may concern, Carroll County Zoning Board. A November 18th, 2015, to whom it may concern, letter from Carrie Stem. A November 18th, 2015, to whom it may concern, letter from Donna Stem. A to whom it may concern, letter from Roland E. Smith, President, M&S Truck Repair, Inc. A letter from, to whom it may concern, letter from Dottie L. Smith. A to whom it may concern, December 2015, letter from James W. Brathoon, Jr. Looks like some sort of petition with a number of other names and addresses. A January 5th, 2016 memorandum from Nokomis Ford to Joe Vance. A correction in the previous memo. Says there is a barn and two farmhouses located with the property, which is identified with the street number 1311 Broadbeck Road. And Brillhart Mill has not been demolished. There is an investigation report from the zoning office. The site minutes for this case are in the file. Then there's a December 14th, 2015 letter from Philip R. Hager, Secretary to the Planning Commission, to the Board of Zoning Appeals. After having reviewed the information contained in the attached analysis, the facts as presented in the application, the relevant portions of the plan, and in accordance with the provisions set forth in the law and the land use article, this conditional use request, if authorized, would not be contrary to the policies. Timing of the implementation of the plan, timing of development, timing of rezoning, development patterns, land uses, and densities or intensities. There's a memorandum from Bureau of Comprehensive Planning, Linda Eisenberg, Chief, from Nokomis Ford, Planning Technician. The above referenced BZA case is a request for conditional use and variance. Specifically, it is for blacksmith welding shop on 8.36 acres of property at 1300 Broadbeck Road in Hampstead. Property is within the county's conservation zone. The above BZA case has been reviewed for consistency with the policies and recommendations contained in the 2014 Carroll County Master Plan, the Carroll County Water and Sewer Master Plan, and other functional plans. The request has been reviewed considering compatibility of the request with surrounding existing and planned land uses, compatibility of the request with the vision and goals for the area as expressed in the relevant plan. The Bureau of Planning offers the following comments. Subject property has a land use designation of resource conservation in the 2014 Carroll County Master Plan, and the surrounding area is comprised primarily of agricultural, conservation and large lot, single-family lands. The request is compatible with the vision and goals for the area as expressed in Chapter 15 of the 2014 Carroll County Master Plan. There are historic sites on and around the property that are listed on the Maryland Inventory of Historic Properties. The staff finding is that this request is not inconsistent with the 2014 Carroll County Master Plan. Our investigation has revealed no record of environmental violations or evidence of degradation, and therefore this request would not have an adverse effect on the current use of the property or its environs. Nokomis Ford responded to the, on behalf of the Bureau of Planning to Joe Vance's request to various state and local agencies. There's a response from Gail Ingalls, Bureau Chief, Resource Management, to Joe Vance's request. Must meet Chapter 38 requirements for utilities and electric and HVAC. There's a December 14th, 2015 notice of public hearing. There's a December 7th, 2015 notice of public hearing. There's a hearing notice posted December 1st, 2015 by Robin Zoll, zoning inspector. Joe Vance sent a notice of public hearing November 23rd, 2015 to the applicant and adjoining property owners. Then there is a multiple-page application that includes photos, maps, and plats. I would ask that the file be entered into evidence.
So moved, thank you. Let me acknowledge one thing before we begin, and that is we are a five-member board. And as you can see, we're missing one member. So the possibility is that we could end up with a 2-2 tie, which essentially is a non-decision. Therefore, as chairperson, if it appears that we're headed toward a tie, I will abstain so that we will not have a tie and walk out with a decision. So that, with that, let me ask anybody who's wishing to speak or testify, if you'd stand and take the oath. Raise your right hand, please.
Stand, please.
And if you're not sure, go ahead. Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say I do.
I do.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, Mr. Bethune, you may introduce you want to come up to the table and introduce your case?
I'd like to ask the board for a continuance until I can seek legal counsel, legal representation.
Okay. Yeah. Should we recess for legal advice?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No,
Okay.
I have no doubt.
Okay.
But my opinion is if someone wants representation by legal counsel, it's their right to do so. I think in past precedent, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Dixon,
The board can certainly grant it. The only consideration is that the board should consider, keep in mind, is that this meeting was publicly advertised, it was in the newspaper twice, and there are people here from the public. So to some extent, people here from the public, if they don't get notice and they don't know about the next hearing, if it's granted, then they could be possibly prejudiced. But other than that, if it's the plaintiff that, or the person asking for the application asking for it, he's certainly not being prejudiced. But it could have some prejudice to people that came in opposition.
But we can send notices to all the adjoining property owners, just as we sent notices when this process started out, saying the case was opened and has been continued to some date. It's going to be, obviously, it's not going to be January. It's going to be February before an open, it's an open time, and maybe even later than that.
But let me ask of the members of the audience, is there anyone who did not get a letter notifying you of this hearing? Did not? Mr. Murphy? Okay,
I talked to Jim about it, he told me about it, so.
okay.
Are you an adjoining property owner?
No,
Okay.
Have you signed in?
yes.
Everybody else signed in?
All right, well, we certainly would be in contact with them also.
No question. It's a no-brainer.
Other thoughts?
That gentleman.
The only notice I got was posted out on the street.
Okay, that's the large sign, yeah, okay. Are you an adjoining property owner?
Yeah, I live in the neighborhood.
Okay, but not adjoining?
No, sir.
Okay, because the letters go to adjoining property owners. Have you signed in over here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Nobody has.
All right, other thoughts?
Ma'am?
Some of us took off work to be here, so
Yeah.
that's just another consideration for some of us.
Yeah.
As much as I sympathize with you, ma'am, this board is obligated to follow the statutes and the procedures as established. And there is precedent for people coming and requesting a continuance. And to my knowledge, we've never denied that. Particularly requesting a continuance to be represented by legal counsel. And it's my opinion that we have an obligation to grant that. That's just my opinion.
Okay, you wish to make a comment. Will you come to the microphone and give us your name, address, and occupation for the record, since we're being recorded?
Good morning. Jennifer Beaker, 1201 Broadbeck Road in Hampstead, Maryland. I'm the Director of Patient Access for University of Maryland Medical Center. And my I'm trying to understand. All of us had plenty of notice to have legal counsel here. So I'm wondering why we're waiting till today to then decide that he wants legal counsel. That's just my question.
Obviously, we don't have an answer. Mr. Murphy?
I just have a
Microphone,
request.
please.
I was talking to George here.
Would you step up to the mic?
And give us your name, address, and occupation, Mr. Murphy.
Bill Murphy, I live at 3960 Sharp Road, number 1 in Millers, Maryland, and I'm an entrepreneur, small business owner. And my request is that George is hearing impaired, and if you all could speak louder so he could hear.
Thank you for letting us know.
Okay. All right, I think we need to move toward a resolution.
I would move that we grant the request for a continuance to the next available date, and we'll have to notify people when that is, depending upon what the office has scheduled for us.
I'd second that.
Okay. If we approve this, I would ask that everybody on that list be notified, because I guess Mr. Murphy didn't get a letter, and the gentleman, what is your name, sir?
Dennis Pastor
Okay, did not get a letter.
Sir, if I might ask, how many extensions are there allowed to be given to Mr. Rafferty? Because if we keep on taking off the work and getting here, and then looks around and there's more and more people and request extensions just to play games with the board, that's not fair to the people to take off from work. So how many extensions will you allow?
I can tell you that this is it, as far as I'm concerned. You get one shot. Trying to balance.
And I would say it's, without knowing anything about the case, it would be unfair for any of us to assign motive to this request.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries 4-0.
You want me to see if I can get the date?
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do that. Legal counsel has suggested
Tim,
that we
Tim,
might be able to get it.
Wait a minute, before you leave, this part that I'm to read about an appeal and stuff, since we didn't make a decision? Okay.
Are you, when you up there, ask
Thank
her
you.
to call
I
the
don't think
next
you heard me.
participant and tell them we will be ready early.
Thank you.
What we're trying to do is to let you know before you leave when the
Next available date. is.
right.
Okay.
So that you don't have to depend on getting a letter, but you still will. You still will.
Okay, thank you.
No, I'm not going to the Bahamas. Can't eat my toothbrush.
Well, this is the first this has happened since I've been on the board.
Well, you're so young.
Well, no, I mean,
That's because you're young and inexperienced.
That's true. You're probably knowledgeable.
Oh, I wouldn't say that.
I would,
Well,
because I know it better than you do.
yes, yeah.
this is being televised. Please do not defame my character.
Sorry about that.
You aren't defamed by being referred to as young, are you?
No, but there were other things said too.
All right, then we can do it March 2nd or 3rd.
You want to pick a date?
Is that the February hearing?
Those are February hearing dates.
Man, this is confusing.
Okay, we're told possible dates are March 2nd or 3rd.
There's what, Tuesday, Wednesday?
Wednesday, Thursday.
Wednesday, Thursday.
Let's do the second.
Okay,
It's the first date.
March 2nd, and let's make that, this is the first one in the morning, at
9:30.
9:30.
Okay.
All right? All right, with that,
So everybody got it? March 2nd, 9:30, right here.
yes, sir.
Will new notices be sent out to the property owners?
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
to everyone who signed in this morning and all adjoining property owners.
Great.
We'll get a new notice.
But when you leave, you have the date, and that's what will be reflected in the letter you get. So, okay?
Yes, a letter will be sent.
Yes, all right?
Thank you for
With
coming.
that, thank you for coming. This hearing is now adjourned. The zoning appeals will come to order. Mr. Dixon, would you care to introduce our next deliberation?
Okay, this is a older case, and we're here today based on the December 1st, 2015 letter from Clark R. Schaefer to the board in reference to Nels Acres LLC. In essence, Mr. Clark's, in his letter, is asking the board to determine whether there's been a substantial change in the plan that that a previous board approved about 10 years ago to what the plan is today. And he'll make his request to the board to ask to whether it is or is not a substantial change. In which case, if it is a substantial change, all they have to do is get the site development plan and go to the planning commission. If it is a substantial change, he would have to come back to this board to get approval for the change.
Okay. With that, Mr. Schaefer, you wish to proceed?
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. For the record, Clark Schaefer, 73 East Main Street, Westminster, Maryland, on behalf of the Pattons and Nels Acres. I have with me here today, I'd like to introduce my oldest daughter and newest partner, Kelly Schaefer, who has joined me in the practice of law, along with my wife and her mother, who is also joined me in the practice of law. So, Kelly. And Joe Stamato is here. He's a representative of NVR, who is one of the parties that might be interested in this project. Now, I have Marty Hackett on the way, but I'm going to proceed. It just occurred to me, there's one piece of information that Marty has that I think is, I'd like to show you. And I trust he'll be here while I'm still talking, since I usually go at least 5 minutes. And if necessary, I can.
You can continue.
I can note that.
5 minutes is just your introductory remarks.
So, I think it's evident that you approved, the key concept here is you approved 312 units in 26 three-story buildings. Now, that I don't think that's totally accurate, because in reviewing the site plan for the previous development, either you or perhaps the planning commission, we had taken some of the elevations down to 2 stories out along Liberty Road on those condo buildings, just to make them smaller out there. And the document Marty has, which I think is important, and when he gets here, we'll show it to you, is the drawing. Here's Marty right now.
That's what you call on.
Yeah, here it is. Good. This is the plat that shows the layout plan for Nels Acres Section 2, which is the thing you approved way back. Now, this might be slightly changed, because this is the site plan that got developed as it went through planning commission, right?
That's correct.
Because we then went through planning commission all the way through approval.
Oh, yeah. Drawings are signed.
Drawings that sign approval for a site plan like this. And these are the buildings, okay, the way, and this is substantially similar to what you were shown and approved in your BZA case. Maybe slight variations. The number of units, I think, was down to 296 instead of 312, slightly less. Same layout, same entrance, etc. And now, today, we're asking we want to revise this. And the reason is market conditions. These are not saleable and marketable, at least the market's telling us, and the people that invest money are telling us that these are. So we are now proposing to change this to, how many is it? 100 and, about 130 villa-style townhouses. This is a general pictorial representation of what these units would look like. And this would be, sort of, these would be built in sort of sections, this would be, and of course, we would change them so that the whole scope didn't look exactly like this.
But this is what you're proposing to go to now.
Yes, it's proposing to go do that.
Which was 1.5 story, attached single-family product that works much more better.
This is Marty Hackett from CLSI, he's our land use consultant.
Let me ask if you take the oath before we go further, okay? Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth? If so, say I do.
I do.
Thank you.
This is the product, substantially similar to the product that we think we go on those, on the product. Now, I want to emphasize a couple things here. One, the layout we're proposing is substantially similar in terms of, we're using the same exact piece of property, okay? Same exact property you approved before. The road access is exactly the same. It exists on the ground. And the interior road layout is approximately the same. I mean, I think this down here wasn't there, but it was a circular thing with units, as you can see, the orientation, here's Liberty Road, and here's Liberty Road, so it's at the top above it. So you can see the orientation has always been something like that. In this one, the community facilities were in here, in the old one. In the new one, the community facilities are over here. These units, and the other thing I'd like to emphasize is we're using approximately the same ground coverage as before, maybe a little less with this, maybe not. And these will be.
By that you mean the footprint of the sum of the footprints of all the units?
Yeah, and the disturbances of the roads, right.
Yeah, the impervious area is probably very similar, but less than what it was. I mean, these are each a single-family attached unit, where these buildings are, when you look at them, similar size, but there's 12 units in these buildings. They're 3-story plus a garage under, so they're much smaller buildings than what we're proposing.
These units will be garage with a basement. They'll be nice units. The price point on these will be substantially higher, we believe, than they would be for these condo units. We also believe in the patents to where there's a bunch, as you know, there are already developed condo units on other portions of this property that previously approved and built. And they're generally in the 3-story condo. Correct, right? And it's symbiotic, we think, that, this will complement this will complement this, in the sense that there'll be some maybe movement from this to these, and over time, as people don't want the 2-story, 3-story living.
Where your right hand is right now, you were just referring to that section. Is that also called Nels Acre?
Yes.
And it's Nels Acre designated as Part 1?
I think.
Section 1.
Section 1.
This would be now Section 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just to orient myself, you point your fingers up the top are on Liberty Road, correct?
Correct.
Now, the access road in is directly there? That's how you get in? Okay.
That is it. This exists today, because this is the access that also accommodates this.
That's okay. All right. What is the name of that road? Fallon?
Fallon Road, yes, sir.
Where is that in relationship to its location exiting on Liberty Road? Just, I'm not sure where I am.
You're Monroe Avenue, you're down further on Oklahoma Road,
Yeah.
Monroe Avenue, you travel eastern just before the bridge.
Okay,
Fairfax, if I may.
okay.
This is the reservoir.
All right, gotcha.
So
Thank you.
the bridge is down here.
Got it.
This is the last property before the reservoir, and this is surrounded by, obviously, the Liberty Reservoir.
Okay.
And, sorry.
It's the last property in Carroll County on that road.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Right. Now, the other thing I'd like to emphasize to you is that even if you would say this is not a substantial change, which means you do not need to come back to the BZA, present another case asking for approval of this, doesn't mean that we go out and get a building permit and build this. We would then have to go through the entire site plan review process with regard to this, which process, as you know, would look at things like traffic, stormwater management, all the state highway access, architectural review, forest conservation, the whole gamut of the regulatory state we would go through. So your action here, if you were to say you don't have to come back, it does not mean that this is escaping review or being exempted from any kind of review. And our pitch to you, our argument is number one, the facts that we just described to you support a finding that it's not a substantial change. And secondly, that your primary role and function is to look at broad land use characteristics and to make the initial and important, in fact, but you will make it doesn't happen, decision as to whether or not this piece of land and this proposed use, or this proposed use as the case may be, is appropriate and compatible and preserves property values and that kind of thing. That's the exercise that you undertook in reviewing this. And you said, yes, this is an appropriate piece of land, given its circumstances, situation, looked at neighboring properties. And now when we come back with this, we think it's a less intense use and not and also not a substantial change from this, given the way.
You spoke about going through the review. Would that review be against 2016 standards or 2005 when this was first approved?
I would think it's 2016. It'll look at bringing everything in. If we modify the layout and go through an amendment to the site plan, they will require us to bring it up to today's standards. Yes, sir.
Yeah, yes.
How many people, with the new proposal, would you expect to be housed in some of those units compared to the prior 10 years ago?
As far as, it's still going to be an age-restricted community.
Okay, 55 and over?
55 and older. You do find that you may have more couples living in a single family attached than you would a two-bedroom garden-style 3-story, only because those people chose that maybe empty nesters, but you're looking at still a substantial reduction in traffic because of the amount of density. The density itself just reduces the traffic amount, only because we're going from 296 down to 120. When you look at it, it's overall less water, less sewer, less traffic. As far as the amount, you'll find that the average, they talk about in the garden style used to be about 1.5 people average. So you have the person with the one here, but they got a couple next door. You will find that these will generate more couples in there. So I'm not telling you that, but when you take the amount of people that are there, even if you multiply that times 2, you can have one person in each one of those and still have more people in the community, is my point. So population is still going to be significantly less when you look at this.
Is each unit containing a 2-car garage?
Yes, sir. and each unit will have a double wide parking pad area in the garage as well, sir, off the street.
And they'll have full basements.
Right.
Yes, it's important because I know that in the past, this board and other boards have expressed some concerns about, to the effect, well, nobody uses their garage parking anymore, they use it for storage. So we can't count on people parking cars in there. And we're like, we understand that, and we've well exceeded with the full basements, that should alleviate some of that.
Plus, there's full pads in front of the garage. I mean, even if you filled up your garage, you still have off-street pad spaces for 2 cars.
Is there street parking?
Normally, the street parking is not limited. I mean, so you can certainly park on the street. It's total width of a public roadway.
Okay.
Which would not be a roadway that would be signed as no parking on any side, any particular side. So there's still, the opportunity for on-street
Let's
parking.
put it this way, we're not planning for on-street parking, but it's available. I think it's fair to say. Like if you're having a car game and you get 6 people coming over and they all bring their own cars, and that's one night, you would have a space for that.
You said that the footprint is less than the previous design.
I said it was similar.
Okay.
And he talks about footprint, it's actually, when you look at it, you call it impervious area, because the rooftops, if you look at what's rooftop and driveways, there's less impervious area on this plan than it is this plan, but you'll notice the reason why is these are all actual parking. This is a travel way, a roadway through here with all parking lots, parking spaces. You wouldn't have that. You'd have more of a traditional type of a neighborhood design where you have your actual throughway, your street, and then you would have normal driveways off of it. It would look very similar to a regular subdivision type.
But by the way, these would likely be, pending planning commission review, private streets. That's what they will be. They will be private streets. So there'll be a homeowners association or a condo association that will be responsible for the snow removal, maintenance, upkeep of these internal streets. Now, that wouldn't apply to Fallon, right, Marty? Is Fallon public here?
Fallon, I believe, is public. So, when Clark said, everything as far as what was previously approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals, as far as how this site functions, as far as a condominium, is the same thing. It's a matter of a housing style changing, going from the density of 296 down to 130-ish. And that, everything else, all the other semantics, and logistics of how this thing will operate is very similar to what exists today and what would have existed when we built it.
Let me ask a question of comparability, just so I can get a visual. You're all from this community. What exists in the Carroll County area that's similar to this?
Carroll Vista,
That's what I thought you'd say. I wanted to hear you say that.
they have single family
Right.
detached and they have single family attached.
He just moved in, so
Yeah.
he's prejudiced, I can tell.
Well, that would be obviously that's 400 and 450 units when it's all built out. This is a smaller version of the product. And like I told the gentleman from NV, not just, but that's a Del Webb, but it's a very similar looking product.
Absolutely.
So. And it's funny because even Carroll Vista, because of the market, the last phase of Carroll Vista where they're building right now, Jim Craft's building, that used to be 3-story mid-rise
Right.
condominiums, about 108 units if I remember, because we did the project. And then we backed it down to, I think, 40. It's about 40. now.
40 couple.
Yeah. So anyway, they did the same thing. They went from the mid-rise condos, 3 stories, down to these 1.5-story units. I'm kind of impartial about Carroll Vista too, because it turned out to be a beautiful, successful community.
But recent occupants are questioning
Apparently the covenants are very strict.
I'm going to tell my wife you said that. Okay, anything else, Mr. Schaefer?
No, unless you have questions, that concludes your presentation.
Let me ask if anybody in the audience wishes to address the issue before we begin deliberation. Okay, if not, let me acknowledge, just for the record, Mr. Schaefer, that, as you know, we're a 5-member board. We're short 1 member, so the possibility is that there could be a tie, which is essentially a non-decision. Therefore, if we appear to be headed for a tie as chairperson, I will abstain. So we'll have a decision one way or the other.
Who's the missing member? Just for my...
Melvin Bell?
No.
Junior Bale.
I haven't been over here in a while.
We noticed.
And I noticed you all were smiling more than you usually are.
It's been really smooth sailing. Okay, with that, let me ask for deliberation by the board.
I would say, when we consider these cases originally, we are shown a plan of what's intended. And I guess that provides information to us, but it seems to me we're really approving the land use. Because after we get done, then the owner goes before the planning commission with site plan. And then all the details of the site are worked out after us. We're not approving the site plan. Someone else is approving the site plan. But we're approving, it seems to me, in a most general sense, the land use. Whereas the number of units proposed is substantially different, it seems to me the land use is not. And all the issues of this, the same structure of the community and the almost identical roadway and all of that leads me to believe that this is not a substantial change, even though in absolute numbers the difference in units is significant. But even there, they're going down, not up. So we're not creating a more dense, more impactful situation if this goes forward. And I don't know that we need to hear it all again, just for that reason. So I'm in favor of saying this is not a substantial change that requires the BZA's further action.
But let me ask Mr. Dixon a question. Yesterday, we approved a contractor's equipment storage building for 120 by 60. When it comes to construction, can that owner make it 100 by 60?
Well, he's got to go through the site review committee, and I don't think there would be a problem with him reducing it. He couldn't. I wouldn't think he could increase it, but I would think that they would approve a reduction in what he proposed.
Okay.
Yeah, my sense on that case was we approved the creation of a contractor's equipment storage yard inside a building.
With
We
the
did,
condition
but we
all
did,
storage be interior.
but we did say inside a 60 by 120 building, and that if for some reason the site plan approval process ended up with a 110 by 55 building, it doesn't seem to me that has anything to do with our initial, what we approved.
Okay. Lisa, Dick?
I agree with Mr. Roush. I believe that the footprint's essentially the same as before, recognizing that the density is much less. The product type is changing with regard to aesthetics, but it's still senior housing product type. So I would be in favor of saying that we do not need to hear this again, the case again.
I look back at the original case, which was approved and written up by our esteemed colleague, Mr. Yingling, in 2005. I think it would be foolish of us to waste your time and expense and ours to review the whole thing again and come to the same conclusion. And I don't think we're going to come to any different conclusion. As a matter of fact, I don't see any substantial change, and therefore, I'm going to vote in favor of, you don't have to come back again.
Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion.
I would move that we rule in this specific case that the new proposed layout does not constitute a substantial change requiring a new Board of Zoning Appeals approval.
Okay, a motion and a second
Second?
by Mr. Simmons. All in favor indicate by aye.
Aye.
And opposed, motion carries 4-0, okay? With that, this hearing is adjourned.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You know, it's not a
Want to stay informed about Carroll County government? Follow us on Facebook by searching for Carroll County Government.